The Spurs are headed to the moon. The Spurs silence doubters tonight in what should be a competitive game. That's right, our Spurs are in San Antonio for their home opener against the Houston Rockets. I know the Spurs fans can't wait to have Frostbank rocking for the very first time this season. What's good, Spurs family? I'm Bryan Colbert Jr. here with Spurs Digest with another pre-game show for y'all. We are in game 2, but the first game at the crib for the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs Digest family, we appreciate y'all subscribing. We appreciate y'all showing love. We are almost at 2K. I had a prediction that we would hit it before the weekend was over. We're almost halfway there, baby. We are very, very close. I think just a little over 100 away. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the doorbell so you get notified every time we drop content for y'all, because we love hearing from y'all. We love talking to y'all. We love seeing the discourse in the comments, man. I try my best to reply when I can and read it, but there is a lot of them. So now we appreciate y'all. And we appreciate y'all and all the discussion. And speaking of discussion, it's time to get right into it, right? Our very, very first topic as we look forward to this game tonight is Wemby, Chris Paul, and of course Gregg Popovich. So let's talk about Gregg Popovich for a second. And actually, we're gonna save Gregg Popovich. I want to actually talk about Wemby and Chris Paul first, because I think Popovich is a little deeper dive. So let's not do that first, man. Let's talk about the stars. Let's talk about the big guys, right? So we have Wemby and Chris Paul. We need to see more from these two, man. We need to see more from this, what we assumed would be a dynamic duo. Granted, we know that Chris Paul is older. Granted, we know that Wemby is very, very young. He's still basically a teenager. And we understand that. However, these two are going to have to be on point for the rest of this team to be on point. They are the catalyst for not only this whole offense, but this defense as well. And we are going to need to see more from them. We're going to need to see better from them. 3 points, 1 for 6 from Chris Paul. It's unacceptable. Like, we didn't expect Chris Paul to come in and be a scorer, come in and be this dynamic offensive, maven when it came to scoring the ball. But, man, 3 points as the starting point guard in 29 minutes is just unacceptable. 8 rebounds and 7 assists is great. Like, we love seeing him doing the dirty work. However, I think we need to see Chris Paul try his best to be a little more assertive. Not because I think he needs to be the go-to scorer for this team, but because I think he is a tone setter for this team. When you have a guy like this, dude, these guys were kids when Chris Paul was at his prime playing. So, they knew who Chris Paul was. They were watching him. When you see a guy come in and set the tone and bring the energy, much like LeBron does for the Lakers a lot of times, that is going to help other people wake up. Like, Jeremy Sochan should not be the tone setter for this team, right? Like, he's still one of the young guys. Like, Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes did a good job of setting the tone, but Chris Paul, I need to see more of him, and I just need to see a better connection between him and Victor Wembanyama. And it's not all Chris Paul's fault, right? Like, to me, I think Wemby was very, very passive in that game 1. Extremely, extremely passive in that game 1, which is very surprising to me, because he's not a guy that shies away from having, the ball in his hands, having the light on him. But, man, he was down low and passing it off. He was just, standing on the perimeter, just kind of looking for the plays and the movement to happen. But he wasn't being very aggressive. Like, to me, I think what is going to take Wemby to that next step this season is that aggression, is that confidence, knowing that, I am the best player on this court. I feel like when we would see, a young Kobe and a young LeBron, they felt that they were the best players on this court. And I know those are some big names. However, these are the shoes that Victor is filling at this point. Like, they are calling this man the future of this league. They are calling him the future multiple MVP. You've heard Shaq. You've heard all these guys say, he's going to be the best big man in this league at some point. You have to start doing the little things now. And I think a lot of it has to do with aggression, mentality. The skill set's there. I see y'all in the comments talking about Wemby can't do this, can't do that. You're crazy. There is nothing on the basketball court that Wemby can't do effectively. But it's between here. It's between here right now. And last game, that's what I felt. I felt like he was in his head. I felt like the game was maybe moving a little too faster than he anticipated. Didn't get a lot of preseason reps, which, doesn't help any young guy. These preseason games to me are so interesting to me. But, I do think that when he turns up that aggression, that confidence, and I'm positive, that's what not only Pop's saying to him, but that's what Chris Paul's saying. That's what this whole team is saying to him. Like, hey, man, it's time to be more aggressive. It's time to be that man that we knew you could be. And I truly think that we are going to need to see a more aggressive Wemby, but I also think we are going to see a more aggressive Wemby. Them Dallas bigs, man, that's a heavy rotation, especially to not have any backup, like Zach Collins not, playing a lot in that first quarter. Zach Collins only played 14 minutes. That's your backup center right there. That's your backup center, and a guy that Wemby is clearly still trying to get himself into, NBA league shape. Yes, he was in the Olympics, but it's a different type of game, right? It's a different type of pace. And for me, you're going to need to see more aggression from Wemby, but then also, of course, when he does that, and when Chris Paul is a little more aggressive as well, I think you see the rest of this team become aggressive as well, too, which is huge, right? You need those tone setters. And these two guys are going to set the tone not only for this game, but for the rest of this season, especially a guy like Chris Paul. Defensively, I hate to use this Chris Paul pictures when I'm starting to talk about defense, but I mean, let's be honest, man. When you have a guy like Chris Paul who is an aging veteran, right? And this is what any aging veteran, you got to put defensive players around him. And as much as I loved what Julian Champagnie did, I wonder if he is as locked down a defender as we need. I don't even think Harrison Barnes is as good a defender at this point in his career as he was, say, with Golden State or even with the Sacramento Kings. So where are we getting that perimeter help from? Where are we going to get that help on that defense? Because, man, these Rockets got a dog in Jalen Green. He just dropped 20 last night. They have some players. I don't think Dylan Brooks is playing, but they have some guys that can fill it up and get buckets. And to me, it's like you can only score so much, right? Like, you're never going to be in these games if you cannot string together consistent stops. And honestly, I didn't see much in game one that makes me feel like there's an answer. Like, there's an answer for our perimeter defense. Keldon's coming off the bench now. We're not getting a lot of that strength and aggression we got with him. It's going to be a very interesting. And then even in down low, too, right? Like, Sangwan, whatever you say my boy's name from Houston, the center, my man is good too, man. He's averaging 16.5 and 11 rebounds right now. Like, my man is getting it, and like, this is going to be a test on all sides of the ball. Like, the Houston Rockets are the Houston Rockets. However, they are not the Houston Rockets of the past that we know. These are guys that got some players that got a nice rotation going down, and this is going to be another true test for us. Not as heavy as Dallas, not even close to as heavy as Dallas. However, I still think there's going to be some things to see where we can be like, okay, like, what are we going to do with this team? And Harrison Barnes is somebody that's going to really have to step up on the defensive end until we figure that out. Until we figure out who our next guy is, we're going to need Harrison Barnes to be, not only that scorer that he was last game, but also a stronger defender. Who is going to be those perimeter defenders? Yes, we know Devin Vassell is out. However, we don't know when he's coming back. So we really have to figure that out now. And it's better to figure it out now, because then when Vassell comes back, now you have even more defensive weapons to get by. And like, to me, this team is going to live and die off defensively. I think you have plenty of scores. I think you have plenty of guys that can find ways to get in the bucket if Pop puts them in the correct position. However, if you can't stop anything defensively, it's never going to work out for you, right? And so now let's go to my dog, Gregg Popovich, because I hate to say it, but I think a lot of what we talked about in this pregame falls on him. I think Gregg Popovich has gotten to a point where, you're past experimenting. Like, you're going to figure out who these guys are, trying to figure out this roster, trying to figure out these different rotations. I feel like at this point, you know who you have. And even like as you watch the game, you started realizing Pop stopped. Like, he went deep in his bench for the first half. Then after that, he really pulled back. But he's going to have to figure out these rotations, figure out where these guys fit, because that is a tall task. It's a tall task when you have a guy like Wemby to build around a center, a perennial center that can just do everything. You have to find those right pieces. And a lot of times, the Spurs, they were just getting what they could get, right? There was not free agents coming here. There was not, big name guys. There's not, even to this day, there's not guys knocking on the door trying to get to the Spurs. So we had to be creative, finding guys like Champagnie, drafting guys like Sochan and Malachi, and, getting lucky with a guy like Keldon, and, taking a gamble on somebody like Zach Collins, who's having injury problems. Those are how this team has been built together. But I think we are trying to get past that now. We're trying to turn the page. And with that, you have to understand that, okay, now it's time to really understand what I could get out of this team and get a consistent rotation going. You need consistency. Like, you see how consistency helped Jeremy Sochan. He played the 4. He guarded the best player. He had a set role, and his did not change, and it benefited him. Same with Champagnie. Champagnie, 3 and D. Get open, stay open, make a play. Don't do too much dribbling. Get those shots up. That was his position, and now he's starting to get it. Keldon as well. Keldon, the sixth man off the bench. Guys are starting to get set in their roles. And I think if you get these other pieces together, figure out how you're going to use Malachi, figure out how you're going to use Blake, figure out how you're going to fit Castle into this, because you have so many guards. Like, to me, is Malachi the one that should, lose minutes so Tre Jones and Wesley and Castle can play? I don't really know. That's going to be a really, really tough call because, again, we still have a guard out in Devin Vassell who's going to eat up a ton of minutes. So for me, these next few weeks, I'm going to be watching Gregg Popovich and how he uses this team, because we've been giving Gregg Pop a lot of bail, right? He has not had great rosters, but now this is a solid roster. These are better players than you've had in a long time. You have your point guard. You have your role players. You have your star big man. Now it's time to show the Spurs fans what this team can really be, and I think it starts here tonight, Spurs family. I truly think it starts tonight because, again, the Houston Rockets are a team we're very familiar with. They got little play cousins up the way, right, just like the Dallas Mavericks. But to me, the Houston Rockets are still trying to figure things out, too. They're still trying to figure out how their players fit together, how they can get the most of their young talent. So this is a great test for us. There should not be any starstruck, right? Like, you get it, playing Kyrie and Luka, man, you get a little starstruck sometimes. We're not going to see that from our young guys tonight. We're going to see our guys come on, like I said, Spurs straight to the moon as we take on the Houston Rockets. I am actually seeing this being our first win, guys. I don't like making predictions, but I truly feel like this is going to be our first win. I feel like Wemby's going to be a man on a mission. One thing we know about Wemby, my man loves the hoop. He loves the game of basketball. And he knows that 17 points wasn't enough. He knows his performance wasn't enough. He knows shooting like that wasn't enough, and it's not going to cut it. And there's one guy that wants to be the greatest and wants to be the best on this team. That is Victor Wembanyama. And I know for a fact he's going to pull up and show out today. So I'm taking overs on everything for Victor, man. I'm talking about points, rebounds, even assists and blocks. Like, I think Victor is going to have himself an incredible game. And I cannot wait to hear what y'all think about this game. And we got all day to comment, so make sure y'all comment. Tell us what y'all think. Tell us y'all keys. We want to hear about it. Let's have conversation. Let's have dialogue. Even get in the comments during the game. Let's have conversation during the game. So I promise y'all I'm watching all these live. So the rest of our Spurs Digest crew, we are all watching these games. So let's continue to interact because we are building an amazing community, Spurs Digest family. And that's all because of y'all love and support. Make sure y'all keep subscribing. Make sure y'all keep sharing. Make sure y'all keep commenting. And we are going to keep the content flowing. The Spurs take on the Houston Rockets tonight for their home opener. The first game in the crib. If you are in San Antonio and you're listening to this right now and you plan on going to the game, I need one thing from y'all. I need y'all to keep Frostbank rocking the entire night. Make Houston regret ever stepping foot into San Antonio and make them feel y'all every single second of this game tonight. I cannot wait to watch the game with y'all. I cannot wait to talk about this game after the fact. Until then, Spurs family, I'm Bryan Colbert here with Spurs Digest. Let's get this win, Spurs.